Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Good Monday evening to all of you, and I want to wish all you guys and gals a fantastic Monday. I know it's the beginning of the week, and it is what it is. We're all going through, our various pains and stresses in life. But I'll tell you, there's nothing more rewarding to do this than to see folks like you show up with all this positivity. It's amazing. You know, it's why all of us do this. And backstage it's rammed full of people that want to be a part of this and are a huge part of this, I should say, building what we have here at CFN. And I'll tell you, it is humbling. I don't even know where to start. As I said, seeing it's still light out. It's 7:00. It's almost summer, and there's a whole whack in. Alan, how you doing, buddy? Terry's in the house. Jeremy's with us. How you doing, Sally? Steve Shaw, yeah, baby. Scott Stewart, what time is it? Is it like 2 p.m. out your way, buddy? I appreciate you joining us. Mike's with us. How you doing, Mike? Mike's going to have a Walleye Wednesday post. Haven't seen a post from Mike in a while, so we're going to have one this Wednesday from Mike. We got that already. Martine's in the house. How you doing, Martine? Sean Forchain. Well, listen, there's a bunch of you here that this speaks volumes to you. And we've been seeing a lot of the videos that Barry and Sally have been putting together about CFN. And there's nothing more heartwarming than seeing that stuff. It's incredible. But the support, as I said, here it is, 7:00. It's still light out. And we've got close to 40 people watching. God bless you all. As I said, wish you all a happy Monday. I want to thank everyone for their work behind the scenes. The one thing I can honestly say about CFN, there is a lot of moving parts. There are a ton of moving parts. First and foremost, I cannot express enough gratitude towards my legacy members who literally keep this all together. Just taking over a new position in the company that I work for, and it's an adjustment, something that I'm going to have to get used to, but I'm enjoying it. But it is busy, and as I said, I don't have the kind of time to vote as I'd like to, because, as I said, can you imagine learning a new position at 50 plus years old? So it is what it is, but I'm enjoying every minute of it, and I appreciate all your support when it comes to that. Pete DeSouza in the house. How you doing, buddy? Talking to you, my friend, today. I don't need to tell you, Pete. You get it, buddy. And as I said, if you guys are looking for purebred Doberman, that's your guy. Double D right there. If you're looking for a dog and Doberman is your dog of choice, Double D right there. Get a hold of my buddy Pete. He'll set you up. But as I said, lots of moving parts. Big shout out to our legacy members who keep this all together. And, of course, you CFNers. There's some amazing things that are being done. And listen, guys, I want you to know this from the bottom of my heart. It does not go unnoticed, all the sharing you guys do. All the shout outs you guys do. When you order a jersey and post it, that stuff doesn't go on. None of this stuff goes unnoticed. And as I'm sure, none of the work that's being done by either myself or the rest of the legacy members or the rest of our community goes unnoticed. None of this is going unnoticed. So big shout out to everyone. Anything and everything you guys do is truly appreciated, but your support for this community and what this community stands for is, the gratitude, as I said, it's a cup that boil over, or it's not a cup big enough to thank everyone. It's just incredible. It leaves me speechless, as you can tell. Namely, there are some individuals that I want to pay tribute to right now. Of course, Michelle Avery. Can't thank her enough, and I want to wish her a speedy recovery. She's just had an operation, major operation, I might add. She wouldn't want me to tell you that, but it's the truth. And I hope she's recovering quietly, comfortably, because she deserves it, because she's been doing a lot of work for CFN behind the scenes. And some of her work is going to be showcased on Thursday. We're going to have another episode of TNT Thursdays. We are going to be showcasing Anthony from the Big One Cut Bait Company. He's going to come on and show us all about Al Wife and how he packages his product and makes it available for all salmon anglers across Canada. And it's kind of cool how that all works out, because, of course, you know, having someone that's here in Ontario able to talk to some of our provincial ambassadors out on the West Coast, namely Cliff Moore's, you made that connection. You know, all of a sudden Anthony's business grows. Cliff's business with his charter company grows because now he has a product that he doesn't have access to. So bridging the gap, it's what we're doing here. And Michelle, can't thank you enough for doing that and introducing us to Anthony and having Anthony support us the way he's doing. I mean, just it's A1. But as I said, lots of moving parts. Michelle, you are just one of them, as the aforementioned people that I also mentioned. It is a group, it's a community, it's a family, and it's growing, and it's fun. David, I'm going to say Spicer, and forgive me, my friend, if I got it wrong, but David approached someone who he knew who has a charter company, and a big shout out. We're going to be talking to Shane Tomes. And I hope I'm terrible with names, guys. I honestly, if it's not like Bill White or Scott Martin, I get it wrong. I'm terrible with names. So if I'm getting any of these wrong, I'm going to say Shane Tomes of fantasticsportfishing.com. He's going to come on. He's going to be talking about his charter company as well as some of the fish that he's going to be targeting, but namely salmon. So we're going to be talking salmon fishing in general. And of course, yet another opportunity for one lucky CFNer to win a trip out with Shane out on Lake Ontario, targeting salmon. And all you have to do once you win is pick a CFNer, a young CFNer who's 17 years old or younger to accompany you. So Shane's going to come on, fantasticsportfishing.com, talk about salmon. And then at the end of it, is going to qualify you guys for a chance to spend, I think, an evening is what it is, an evening out with Shane with a young CFNer, including yourself, out on Lake Ontario targeting salmon. So this is this Thursday. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned to that. And of course, May Long weekend is coming up. It's right around the corner. And what else is also around the corner is hopefully the tentative date of the CFN Fish Off. And before I do that, let me bring in Mike so that we can talk a little bit about that. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that I was supposed to share, and I never did. Mike, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Good, Scotty. Congrats on the new job.
Thanks, bud. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So, fingers are crossed.
Yes.
That May Long weekend, which will be the annual start date for the CFN Fish Off. And you talked about thanking our community and our CFN family. One of the ways we could do that is to put on the CFN Fish Off, because we have a whole bunch of Shimano rods and reels that our community can win. So fingers crossed, May Long weekend. We do have to wait until, you know, the Ontario government and other provincial bodies make their announcement in terms of what's going to be happening come the end of May, but fingers are crossed. And if not, then we'll postpone. So we'll definitely have it. We'll just shift it based upon the COVID situation.
Well, you know, I think it's awesome. As I said, Mike, it speaks to our community, the fact that we've managed to surpass the 100 teams. And I understand, I get why, a lot of people would say, well, why don't you guys have 500 teams if this thing is so popular? Well, I'll be honest with you. One of the biggest reasons, of course, is nobody knows what's going to happen with COVID. And what I've been trying to tell people, like our good friend Douglas, who's up in Nunavut, he says, Scotty, I don't have enough species to target for the CFN Fish Off. Why would I bother, entering my team? Well, I'll tell you why, and Mike will tell you why, and everyone else in the CFN Fish will tell you why, because all you have to do is catch one fish to qualify and win a prize from Shimano.
Yeah, if you catch 20 different species, you get 20 ballots into the Shimano draw. But if you catch one species, that one fish, that 8-inch perch, could win you 2 Shimano combos, one for you, one for your partner. So definitely worth it. And this is what I tell people all the time. If you're fishing anyways, you might as well just enter those fish, because those fish can win you some free stuff.
Absolutely, buddy. And we're going to be discussing a few things, including some potential rule changes tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to be doing the giveaway if we have the name wheel done in time. But Mike, I know you've been busy talking to our judges behind the scenes, and I know it's a daily conversation. I know everybody's chomping at the bit. There is some bad news floating around that it looks as if we might be extended another 2 weeks. I don't like talking about it because I'm hoping that we'll be able to open it up. But again, we have to respect those who are in control. Whether you agree with what they're doing or not, we have to respect it. And whatever decision they make is the decision that's going to have to mirror what happens with the CFN Fish Off. But Mike, as I said, on behalf of our community and myself, I can't thank you guys enough for all the work that you're doing to ensure that we're going to run something and have it fun.
Yep. So our first prize giveaway will be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Join Scotty and I live for Tourney Tuesdays. So between every Tuesday until the end of the tournament, when we give out our last prize, we'll be going live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock, just to answer your questions as well as do any giveaways that we have. So behind me right here, that is the giveaway that we are giving out tomorrow. And that's because we've surpassed 100 teams registered. So the first 100 teams registered, all your names will go into a wheel, and your team can win that prize pack behind me. So join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock. And if you haven't registered, go to cfnfishoff.com and enter your team.
Thanks very much, Mike. We'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
All right. See everyone tomorrow.
Enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, I'm going to take another stab at this, guys. We are going to be doing a giveaway at the end of tonight's broadcast. So as soon as we're done with Jay, we're going to be giving away our Ugly Boys Baits prize pack for all those who tagged a store that you would love to see these baits in at the end of Thursday, or actually it was Friday morning. Really appreciate you guys doing that. So we're going to be giving that away. And also let's do justice to Anthony of the Big One Cut Bait Company. As I said, he will be joining us first to discuss his baits and what is unique about his product. Obviously, it's Alewife, and it is a cut bait that is very popular with all salmon hunters and chrome chasers. So stay tuned to that. Again, that's Thursday at 8. We're going to be talking to Anthony and, of course, our good friend Shane Toms from fantasticsportfishing.com. He is going to be talking all about salmon and offering up a great possibility for one of our CFNers, a young CFNer, 17 years or younger, out on Lake Ontario for an evening of chasing chrome yourself. Now, what I also want to do is thank all of our ladies who entered our last contest, and of course, someone who is very special to CFN, who's going to be joining us momentarily, is going to make an announcement of an initiative that OWA is going to be undertaking, and also she will be announcing our ladies' night guest next Monday is going to be the beloved Adele Dobin. God bless Adele from Accessible Angling. She's going to be on as Yvonne's guest. Yvonne is going to be my guest host. And let's bring in Yvonne to talk a little bit about that and her initiative. How you doing tonight, Yvonne?
Did you catch me playing with my hair?
At this point, my mother would have said no. Say no, Scott. Say no. I did not.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'll try to make this brief. I know that you have a full agenda tonight. So just as a preface, it's directly related to COVID that we have, as an organization, lost about $5,000 in financial support this year and beyond, because these opportunities are no longer available. We used to get a grant from the the Canadian National Sportsman Shows Foundation, which we know has been sold. And the OFAH, they used to run a lottery, like they would sell tickets at trade shows. And of course that can't happen. So they've changed their format. And we used to be able to do some fundraising through our own lottery sales. So that money is no longer there too. So we've had to kind of ramp up our fundraising initiatives this year. And we've come up with this campaign. It's going to last about 10 to 12 weeks. Every 2 weeks, there will be a draw. The prize or prizes as a collective will be worth at least $500. We're starting off with a Helix, a portable Helix 5 with GPS. It's worth about $500 approximately. It was donated by Tim and Sylvia Beneteau. And Hummingbird is a great supporter of Ontario Women Anglers and for myself. So how it works is you will buy a keychain for $20. If you go to the Ontario Women Anglers Facebook page, you'll see what the keychain looks like. So you buy the keychain for $20. You're entered into a free draw for whatever that item is. And there's only 50 keychains sold per draw. So we will, of course, promote this to our membership first, but it will be a public draw. And just want to give you an idea. I just wanted to say thank you as well to Kim Rhodes of Lucky Strike Lures, who donated the keychains for us. But some of the prizes, like I said, the Hummingbird Helix 5, we have like an ice fishing package. Like there's a ice hut rental for 4 from Hotbox Huts. I've donated like a package, like a rod reel, rod glove. And you know those clam conversion plates? Yeah. That'll be there. We've got a number of lure makers, for example, like Jeremy Foote and Frank Thurston. They make musky baits, and they're going to be donating some stuff. Handlebars will be donating a few things. Fanatics. There's a whole, a very good list. If there are any other businesses or individuals that would be interested in donating something for one of the draws, please. CFN is going to be donating.
We will definitely be putting something together for you, Yvonne, and I'll have that out this week for sure. But when I said, maybe I'll call up and see what I can do for you right away. When you started to spew out all of this, I was like, "You've done it all." There's nothing I can do for you.
Our volunteer team has done a wonderful job in contacting people they know in the industry, tackle stores, charters, guides, things like that. So they've really come through, and so we're hoping to get some support from the fishing industry. Although we're not, able to run events, there's still a cost to running the organization, a lot of the administrative stuff. And like you and I had talked earlier about the shipping costs, because we're not doing in-person stuff. It's killing us. Yeah. We're really trying to kind of scale back on what we send out, or send things like gift cards, because, to send a reel, it's, $16, $17. So a rod, you don't even want to know what it costs to ship a rod. It's
and you know what? I can't thank Bob and Shimano North America enough for stepping up to the plate this year, and for our CFN Fish Off prizes, they have taken it upon themselves to do the shipping for us. Mm-hmm. So thank the Lord for that, because as I said, like you mentioned, it's upwards of $200 a rod just to ship it. So as I said, and I know our community appreciates it, but it still costs a lot of money, and I can't thank Shimano enough for doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm.
So that's it in a nutshell. Jen Brooks, one of our volunteers, she's heading this initiative, and I'll post her contact information. She does have, sorry, doing two things at once. She does have a, Facebook page.
Do you have a graphic that you wanted to show, Yvonne? I know that
yeah,
you wanted me to. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to download it.
But it was my fault. I started an email and I didn't send it to you.
Okay, it's all good.
If I can share my screen. I've never done this on StreamYard, so hang on a second. Share screen. Oh. Okay. I don't know if I've done this right.
It'll pop up. I will know that you've done it right because it'll pop up in the lobby. And what this is, for those who are wondering, is the graphic in which Yvonne wanted to show everyone so that when you go to look for it.
Sorry, I didn't practice how to do this beforehand. But if you go to the Ontario Women Anglers Facebook page, it is there, and you'll see it. They really look quite good. There are some, not restrictions, but we're limiting it to five purchases per draw. You have to be a Canadian resident, and this is going to be run bi-weekly. So tomorrow we'll be posting a link to where you will purchase the keychain. You're entered into the free draw. We have at least 5, but I think we're going to end up with 6 or 7 draws over, 10 plus weeks. And everything goes to Ontario Women Anglers and the programming.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Yvonne. And as I said, all your hard work, all of your assistants and supporters and fundraiser helpers. As I said, it's definitely a community effort. It's a group effort. And by the looks of things, you've got a lot of support. So congratulations to you on that one.
Oh, Jen just says it starts May 15th.
There you go, Jen. That's the kind of support we need right there, Jen. Holla. Yeah, baby. Right on. Okay, Yvonne. Well, listen, you have yourself a great night, and we look forward to that. And in the meantime, everyone go to that link that I have just posted below. It is the Facebook page for Ontario Women Anglers, and find out more about this incredible giveaway fundraiser. Right on, Yvonne.
Thank you very much.
See you next Monday with our beloved guest,
yes.
Adele Dobin from Accessible Angling.
Looking forward to it.
Right on. Always a great treat to have Yvonne on, of course, to discuss all kinds of wicked stuff that's upcoming that she's doing and her group is doing, and that we can somehow be a part of with our community. But as I noticed a couple comments, yeah, 200 was the most we've paid to ship a rod. It's anywhere between $50 to $100, but 200 was the most that we ever paid, and that was with a deal. So it is what it is, but we do this for our community. We love our community, and it's because of our community that we have no problems doing it. Anyway, our good friend Jim's going to be coming up. Here is his favorite video, including mine, a segment of Just Fishing.
honoring past achievements as we step into the future. Elevate, innovate, reimagine. Make the best better. That's what we do. Radically redefined, the NRX Plus is the culmination of our obsessive drive to forge the most advanced fishing tools on the planet.
Good evening, Big Jim. How you doing, my friend?
What's going on? Hey, it's all good, buddy. It's what it is.
Absolutely. And
you can smile or you can whine.
Absolutely. But, listen, I can't think of starting your segment without that incredible video that we always do. But you also wanted me to add the NRX video. And there's a reason that you wanted to talk about that. And, of course, it may not speak necessarily to the majority of our community because it is at a price point that perhaps a lot of us can't afford. But it is something to consider. And you're going to tell us why.
Yeah, that's, like the NRX rods are the like they're the top of the ladder in the world. It's all there is to it. Other people could say, well, there's this, there's that, there's the next thing, but these things absolutely rock, and they've basically gone over them, changed a couple of things up on them, and a couple of things that they've added to it now is they've added Spiral X, Scotty, which is one of the things that Shimano has on their rods. That's when you look on a Zodius and you see that nice little diamond pattern. Well, that's not there because it looks pretty. That's there because of what it does to the rod. And when they make that, they put a piece of like linear graphite down, which runs the length of it, and then they wrap tape. I'm not sure of the angle, but the tape is on an angle, and the tape it's like putting tape on a hockey stick blade. Now, like when I used to play all the hockey, you could put the roll of tape on one finger and just boom, tear it off, and it was done, right?
Yeah.
But you were overlapping the tape. So when they put the tape on the rod when they're building it, it doesn't overlap. It lines up like this, right beside itself, so there's no bulking up. It lays flat. Then they put another piece of the linear stuff down. Then they wrap it the other way. And that's what gives that cross pattern. And that just adds a whole bunch, like a whole bunch of things to the rod. It'll give you more strength, like to pull on a fish or lift on it. It greatly reduces breakage because when a rod starts to break, like rods are round. So when they get a lot of pressure on them, they start to bend and they start to go flat. They come out of that circle and they go to a sideways oval, and then they break. This virtually eliminates that. And you can see it when you're fishing too. The difference in it. If you watch your rod tip, you'll see when you fish with an NRX, there's no twist on the rod when you set the hook. Like it doesn't exist. It's just it's just one of those things. And something else that it allows you to do, it allows you to make it would allow you to make a longer cast, but more importantly to make an accurate cast. And it's not just about distance. I mean, nobody ever caught more fish because they could cast farther, unless there's two people standing on the bank and there's a rock pile 100 feet offshore and you can't cast 100 feet. That's the only time that, really super long distance like that is really a factor. And, the odd bit with getting crankbaits down to depths of things. But as a general rule of thumb, just not necessary. Now, the other thing that they have on that is a thing we have now called multi-taper. And what they do is when they're building a rod, they'll actually add extra material in certain areas where when you pull the rod and you watch it bend, they'll add it at any point that there's going to be a significant bend depending on that rod. And once again, it stops that ovalization and the rod breaking. And it's just something that is really cool to like to get to fish with. And I understand that these things are have a fairly hefty price tag on them. But there's only one way to convince a person that's not convinced to buy an NRX. Put it in their hand and have them catch a half a dozen fish.
Absolutely.
There's something about it. There's something about the feel. Like, I've got like 75 rods and reels here. And I mean, I go down the back here. I've got Celuses. I've got SLXs. Oh, an NRX. Yeah, let's try one of those, And I go down, they use it. And every time I catch a fish on it, it's like, yeah, that's an NRX.
Now,
it's just
what I'm amazed at is when you go over to G. Loomis and you look at their NRX line, how many different rods for different applications there are. It's not just that it's a great rod and everyone should get one. It's how do you fish? What do you fish for? There are just an incredible variety of NRX rods that speak to a whole bunch of species.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like the way Loomis says they have the ability to build a rod. Like when I was down at the Shimano Summit in the U.S. a couple of years ago, I watched like 15, 18 of the best anglers in North America, guys that have won the FLW Cup, the Bassmaster Classic, won both of them, stuff like this, like guys that have been in the fishing industry and use Shimano forever. And just really cool to see these guys, they put it like, the way last year they brought out the different rods for the bladed jigs, and it was a group of rods that came out late in the year. That swim bait rods and stuff like that. That was the result of them asking these guys to write down what they felt was the best rod that they could use for that now, and what would they see change. And they wrote it all down, and the guys from Loomis were over there taking pictures of all these boards to take back and work on it, and then a little while later they come out with these rods that are just perfect for fishing, because there's rods that are very versatile. Like I have my 893 that I just adore. It's a very, very versatile rod. But if you truly want to get the best out of every lure, hook the most fish, land the most fish, have the best experience fishing that lure, that's the reason why a golfer will have 10 or 15 golf clubs in the golf bag, and why a carpenter doesn't just have a chainsaw and a sledgehammer, which are my two favorite tools. You know what I mean? That's the reason why there's all kinds of different tools for things, and this is what's happened in fishing, and it's real. It's absolutely real.
Well, and Mike, he talks about it here about having 40 rods and 40 reels, but only one functions properly. I retired my Frankenstein combo from last year. Finally, I give it one more month before a new one is broken. And you know what? Listen, and that happens. And we had a good friend of ours, Jesse, reach out to us on CFN Fish Off about a rod. And of course, guys, if a Shimano product does break, I want everybody to have a bit of understanding in regards to getting some of this stuff and the warranty done and completed, because the one thing about Shimano, they are doing their very best to service their customers, and it's not easy right now because, of course, in terms of product and the supply chain, it is flipped upside down. So,
the whole fishing world's like that.
Yeah,
it's and it's not gonna right itself quick. When everybody eventually stays at home for a while, or gets vaccinated, it'll these things will all come back into place slowly.
And Jim, you've talked about it before, and I'll get you to talk about it again because it just makes sense to talk about it now at this point in regards to that high price point that a lot of people might be scared off. The warranty that comes with a Shimano product is really it's ironclad.
Yeah, they're really good at taking care of you. And I had a guy come to me a couple of years ago with a reel, and he said to me, I have a bad habit of engaging the reel before the lure hits the water. So the spool's spinning a million miles an hour with a lure going out, clicks the handle closed, boom. The reel just they're not meant to do that. And it still lasted them 2 full years of doing that with musky lures. And then he had a catastrophic failure. He said he did it one day, he flicked the handle, and it just kept going, and the noise it made, you know, that the way to stop a cast is not turning the handle. That's not the way you do it. You don't engage it, especially when you're chucking a 6 or 8 ounce lure, you know. And I brought it back and they fixed it for them. I think they would have fixed it, you know, regardless. It's the way they are. But even if you do things like that, and you know it, at least you know right here in Canada you can get it serviced, even if you have to pay for it. If it's something stupid that you do yourself. And a lot of guys are honest about it.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are honest about it.
But we've had Rachel on here, as you know, talking in great depth in regards to what goes on at the factory and head office down in Peterborough. And Rachel, for all your work that you do, and I know it is endless right now. You're doing your best. Some of it might be even at home, but they're doing their very best to at least accommodate a lot of their customers that do have warranty concerns with a lot of their products. But you know, we talk about our NRX, Jim, and all of the attention and focus on detail that goes into our NRX. You would think that Shimano wouldn't have time to speak to the average angler with some of the product lines, but they do. And the thing is, some of those product lines that they're coming out with, including the Symmetry combo that is going to be available to our CFN Fish Off participants, is really something.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I show you something that I just got. Hang on for a sec.
Right on. So keep that in mind, guys. As I said, you know, we at the end of the day, we would never encourage anyone to spend more than they got or live outside of their means. But keep in mind, there are a lot of products that Shimano offers.
Look what I just got from my light line fishing.
Wow. Beautiful.
Siennas. They're not Vanfords. They're not, you know, Stradics. If I want Stradics, I can have them if I want, you know. But that's what I'm going to use for my light line fishing.
Yeah.
You know, every reel doesn't have to cost $500 or $400. Every rod doesn't have to, but it's nice to have one. It really, really is nice just to have something that you really cherish that you fish with. I know so many guys that when they retire, I get emails. I bet you once a month. I probably get 10, 15 a year from people. Hey, you know so-and-so, eh? And I go, yeah. And they say, he's retiring, you know, and he wants a Shimano rod. What should we get him? And I say, well, you know, how much money have you got to spend on them? And I'll give you like an idea. They say, oh, well, we were thinking $1,000. Yep. I can get you fixed up. You know what I mean? But it's not always. I would rather see a guy get 2 combos or 3 if he's retiring as a gift, so he can do different things. You know, that type of thing. You know, whatever. But then again, there's guys that they want to spend that $700 and get someone something really fancy when they retire. And I know lots of guys that have, you know, they have a reel and it came to them with a little plaque stuck to the box and things, or they get a little presentation box made, or, you know, get one. It's like, it's not hard to find that stuff. And they get a Stella or something, and they put it in that box for them, and they have it and they use it. But it's really nice to have something like that. And it doesn't, you know, the rest of your stuff doesn't have to be top end. Guys really laugh at me. They'll be out here fishing with me, and I'll have an SLX with a Stella on it or something. Or vice versa, you know, like a really high-end rod with a, you know, like a $99 reel on it, things like that. And it's, rods and reels are just tools. And it's what you can afford. And, you know, if you want something nice, get it. But, man, there's just so many choices today from Shimano, and it's all good. I mean, because of the way they do things. Yeah. And you got to remember, they're really the only company left now that builds, you know, like all their reels in their own factories. Like every factory they have around the world is owned by Shimano. Nobody else can say that they own their own factories for all their stuff.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah, sure. We have factories in different countries, but there are factories staffed by our people running them and everything else, you know. So it's a good deal.
Rule of thumb, Jim, would you agree that if you were going to spend money, what would you spend more money on? Would you spend more money on your rod, or would you spend more money on the reel?
Hey, that's a good question. You know, really, it depends what you want to do. I mean, if you want to get into doing something like, if you want to learn how to skip jigs underneath docks from 40 feet away, it would help if you had something like a reel that was a little higher end. It's just going to function that little bit different, better for you, just because of the materials and the way they're made. But once again, to do something like that, you need a rod that's just right too, with the right flex and stuff like that. But when it all comes down to it, most of the things that people do, it would be better for them to focus on the rod as opposed to reel. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I would agree.
Focus on the rod, because half the time they're a lot of people troll. They don't troll with a rod holder. They hold the rod and reel, so the reel just becomes a place to hold the line, so to speak. And things like that. Depending how you fish, where you get a guy that's a gung ho tournament guy, or he doesn't have to be a tournament guy. He could just be a gung ho fisherman that's out, doing the exact same thing that the tournament guys do.
Yeah.
And then, so for him to have the proper tackle and the good reels with the different speed retrieves for different things, different techniques and things like that. When you see the big picture, it's really cool. And I know that so many people never get to fish a lot of different things, a lot of different lures. They find their one thing. Like I always joke to my buddy up north, and I tell him, "Hey, did you get some new 1/4 ounce jigs this year?" Because I bug up something fierce. Because if you live up north, you buy 1/4 ounce jigs and you fish with a minnow and you catch fish. So it's it's what it is. It's they're all really, really good. It's fishing's just a great thing, and you can take it to whatever level you want. Just Absolutely. Like if you're just like if you're a backyard camper or carpenter, you can have whatever you want.
Now, there's a couple questions here, and Christina is the first in regards to warranty. And of course, forgive myself, Christina. I don't know a lot about how warranty works for Shimano, but unfortunately, she snapped her Claris and does not have the receipt.
Yeah, send it back into Peterborough.
Send it back into Peterborough and hope for the best, and I guess prepare for the worst. But Shimano does have a habit of
they'll tell you how you broke it.
Yeah. That's actually very important, Jim, that you bring that up. So if you're dishonest, they have ways of figuring out how a rod broke.
They can look at it under a microscope and tell how it was all fatigued before it broke. Once you're trained, it's really simple. I watch guys look at them. They just shake their heads, it just broke on a cast. No, it didn't. It was under an extreme load, which means it was snagged. They put their hand halfway up the rod to pull on it while they gunned the motor, and the rod broke right at their hand. So, when you want a rod to break, when you want anything to break somewhere, you put your hand and you bend it over an edge. You put something over the edge of the table and push it to break it. And that's what guys do when they put their hand halfway up the rod and they load it beyond. You see, I've heard that happen in boats I've been in, watch guys doing it, pulling and pow, the rod goes. They go, "Well, she's just broken." They're holding the bottom half of the rod. Like, well, yeah, if you pull something like that and bend it over an edge, there's a good chance it's going to break.
It does happen, yes, absolutely. Not that I've ever seen it myself. Mike Moran's, your question. If it's at the bottom of a river because your buddy drove the boat over a few waterfalls, I'm gonna say that warranty won't help you out in that case. Just going out on a limb. I'm just gonna go out on a limb.
I wonder if there's any alcoholic beverages involved in that.
We can't say that. Absolutely, I can't say that. That's that. This is a family show. But yes, absolutely. Shimano will certainly do what they can to help you out. But what I'm truly a fan of, and as I said, I've said it a million times, being the ultimate Canadian tire flyer buyer, I have done my fair share of buying rods and reels on deals, and
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't. You're 100%, and Jim, and I appreciate you saying that, because I never had the opportunity that I have with Shimano. Now, having said that, now their product lines are speaking to anglers like us that may not be able to afford our NRX, or may not be able to talk to your wife for a couple months because you bought an NRX. Either way, a lot of the product lines that are out there right now are speaking to the average angler, and I can't salute and say enough great things to Shimano for doing exactly that. Jim, what have you got upcoming this week, my friend?
I don't have much upcoming on Thursday. It's really cool. I have an appointment to get my blood taken the doctor wants to check my A1C again because it crept up a couple of points last time there.
Okay.
It got up, but my sugar in the morning here, I check it often now, and it's the insulin they gave me wasn't doing the job, so they have me on a new one. It took a couple of weeks to get to like my body, for my body to like it, and I only have to take it once a day, and it's amazing. I get up in the morning and my blood sugar will be 5.5 or 6, stuff like that. So that's like beyond excellent for that. If you're the average person, that's great, and for the situation, like I got the diabetes from the chemotherapy. They told me what happened when I had cancer. So you put up with it. It's what it is. It's part of the game. But we're looking at one now that I would only have to take once a week. And they had told me that would be possible if I reacted well with this one. And my body has reacted very, very well with this one at once a day. So hopefully they'll put me on the one that's once a week. And I'm not worried about sticking a needle in myself. It means nothing to me. I'll be driving down the 401 with somebody, take the needle, stick it. It means nothing. You get used to it after years. Speaking of sticking things, I got something I'm excited about.
Here we go.
You all know that's my favorite little baby.
Amen.
That little darts hog. You can see it's a little creature bait. Rigs up really, really nice. So what I found was, owner now has this little thing called a blockhead, which is sort of like a Ned head basically, but it has a Z-lock hook on it. See the way the hook molded in the hold this up here. See the way the hook is?
Yeah.
So you can Texas rig plastics on it.
Wow.
So I've got this rig, Texas rig, so I can just fish it on lighter line and a little jig head and that's like my favorite little bait besides the Archelon when I get into heavy cover and that.
You do like your Archelon.
Yeah, that's my bait. I notice there's a lot of companies now coming out with things that are like that kind of resemble it.
A whole host, yes.
Yeah. There's a few of them like that, but these here are pretty cool. Like I say, I don't work for them or anything like that. It's some awesome stuff, and I've been talking to a buddy who I turned him onto the darts hogs, and he turned me on a jig head because he was fishing down in Florida, and he told me, wow, he said they went into this little weedless, structureless swamp type lake. It's got a ring of bulrushes around the edges, and then just nothing, the odd little pile of rocks and stuff. And they fish with lighter line. They fish with like 10, 15 pound Power Pro, and they just fish with the 8 3/16 little jigs like that with little creature baits and stuff. And they get them off these little rocks. There'll be one rock sticking out of the bottom, and they've got all the live sonar on their boats now. And he said to me, "You look over and you see 6 rocks, and there's 9 fish, And then there's nothing for 400 yards. There's just nothing. The bottom is just like your kitchen floor, right? There's just nothing there. And then you come to one rock and there's 4 bass on it. And he said they just got sick of going with 75 and 80 pound braid around the bulrushes at the edge, and they catch these fish. And they've gotten a couple this winter here. They got a couple that were just coming back to the spring here, I guess, that were like double number fish. So, you're catching a 10, 11 pound largemouth. You're looking at a rock and you're seeing one big fish that looks like another rock maybe. And that rock swims over and eats your craw. It's pretty cool.
It sounds
pretty cool to watch. Yeah.
I got shivers just thinking about it as I do every Monday talking to you, Jim. Listen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for all you do for our community and spending some time with CFN.
Pleasure is truly mine. Everybody out there, be safe, whatever you do. Right now, I know 5 people with COVID, and 2 or 3 of them, if I gave you the names, you would know them. A lot of these people would know them. So there are people around you. This new stuff, one person told me that they lived in absolute agony for 10 days. They literally thought they were going to die, and they're only like 38 years old. Jeez. No, not 30. Yeah, 38, I think. So let's all be careful, kiddies.
Amen.
Oh, right yeah, I told you I was going to get my blood Thursday.
Yes.
And in the afternoon, I'm getting my vaccine. So
Bingo, bango. Attaboy, brother.
Okay,
Good luck
guys.
with that. All the
Be
best.
safe.
Safe.
Yep,
You as well,
always.
dude. And here's a word from our sponsor before we bring in the one and only Lawrence Gunther.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther in the house.
I'm hungry now.
I know, eh? It happens all the time, and I promise I'll do a better job of not doing that to you, Lawrence. Because you know what, we share in that right now. In fact, I could almost, if the smell-o-vision was on, I could almost smell some of that food.
Oh, yeah, that could be like a post-dinner bedtime treat, right? Just like cook up something like that. Oh,
well,
boy.
listen, one thing that I can honestly say I'm looking forward to is perhaps putting on a good fish fry for you, Jay, and Jim when this is all said and done and over. We could sit back and maybe have a few wobbly pops, and we have done a fantastic job. And again, I can't thank all of you enough, including yourself, Lawrence, for allowing us to do this with our community, for our community. And you guys have been, just stellar individuals, making sure that you make yourselves available each and every Monday, just so that we have that attachment. Now, of course, things look as if they're starting to ease a little bit. I don't know if it's just the people and their opinions on what's going on with COVID. Perhaps maybe we're going to get a great announcement in the coming days and weeks that it will open things up. But in the meantime, we are under, here in Ontario anyway, a lockdown of epic proportions, because I've never ever seen it, nor do I ever want to see it like this again. Yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the segment that you have upcoming, which I'm really interested in, because it does tweak some interest, and perhaps it's a controversial topic. Let's be honest, right? When it comes to pro staff and the whole pro staff industry and what social media has done to that. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I was speaking with a couple of pretty amazing people. Angie Scott has a podcast called Woman Angler and Adventurer. She's down in living in Nashville. She's been in the music business for 15 years. She grew up in Minnesota in the 10,000 Lakes area, fishing walleye. She lives on a houseboat now. She loves fishing. And she started podcasting a few years ago because she was getting tired of the music business. She wanted to make fishing her business. So she started a podcast called How to Make Money Fishing. And then that transitioned into this, Woman Angler and Adventure podcast. And she's done over 100 podcasts where she interviews women that are just really rocking it in the outdoors, and adventure and fishing. She does bass tournaments. She's the lead singer from Alabama Shakes. She just had her on the show. Now she's going to go fishing with her on Lake Erie. So, she's really pushing the limit and getting women out there and people, she's like Nashville's version of our own Yvonne Brown, right? Like, hey, they saw Yvonne, she met Yvonne and copied her. But
interesting.
She's a true influencer. So then through her, she brought up this other name, Angie Thompson. And I know that name because Angie Thompson worked for ESPN when they owned Bassmasters, and then they sold Bassmasters, and she went with it, and she became the communication director for Bassmasters, right? And she helped put the whole thing online. And she's been into the fishing business for 30 years. We had a nice chat. Now, if you go to the Bluefish News for May 10th, and there's up there on bluefishcanada.ca, we just share the link on that, bluefishcanada.ca, news for May 10th, you'll see links to both those interviews with the two Angies in the editorial piece that starts the news. And so what Angie and I were talking about is how the whole industry has shifted. And, this has been a conversation point for years, right? I've been around long enough, as a professional sponsored angler, 14 years since I got my first sponsorship. And And over that 14 years, things have changed so much. So I wrote an editorial why it changed, Scotty. And there's 3 big things. And I'll let you guess. I'll let you guess, and then we'll talk about each one. But I'm sure you know. It's not a secret.
I want to say the first and foremost is, of course, the emergence of social media.
Yeah, the internet. Just putting everything on the web, and then putting everything into social media. Right, those 2 things. The internet, just the internet. You know, the outdoor shows was the internet, right? The catalogs and magazines, was the internet. And watching, back then there was over 100 fishing shows on television. That's what we had. We had the magazines, we had the outdoor shows, we had the catalogs, and we had TV. That was our internet. Now we have the internet, which is 100 times more more knowledge on the internet, more information. Anytime you want it, you serve it up in any way you want it, visual, audio, textual, it's all there, right? It's all there. So the whole need to have boots on the ground and well logoed anglers walking around at outdoor shows, at stores, at tournament events, making TV shows, writing articles, at that point, it was all about people power. Now you can put all that power in the hands of one 14-year-old influencer. And, maybe they're not the tournament people, that you still have that tournament people, but tournament, according to Angie Thompson, she says that accounts for about 20% of sales in the fishing industry through tournaments. 80% has been the tough nut to crack. How do you reach them without spending a fortune on mainstream media advertising? Because that 80% of what we called weekend warriors, they weren't watching Bassmaster, they weren't watching the walleye tour, they weren't watching that stuff necessarily. They were just going fishing every weekend and watching regular TV and maybe picking up a copy of Outdoor Canada magazine or something like that. But to reach them through mainstream media was really expensive. So yeah, it was a challenge, but now they're finding the industry has pivoted into influencing and reaching out to these people, regular people to regular people, weekend warrior to weekend warrior, right? Not the big name tournament winning angler with all the bling, that doesn't really transfer over to the weekend warrior. They look at that and they go, well, that's, I drive a car, but I'm not into NASCAR, right? It's like, it's the big jump. So they have people, they're finding people on the internet through social media who create content from people, for people, women, visible minorities, youth. Those are the big categories they want to bring in for sure. And it's a brand new world in a lot of ways. And for a lot of ways too, for the old guard, it's been a bit of a reality check because the numbers, of keeping those guys around, they don't need as many. They just don't need as many.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And of course, we could talk about a whole different segment just in regards to social media and the effects that it's had on the industry. Some good and some not so good, depending on depending on which side of the fence you're standing. But, when you see I would say social media phenoms like One Rod, One Reel, Uncut Angling. As I said, it speaks in itself that there not only is a niche for that kind of entertainment via angling in our industry, but also the ability to produce it. And of course, platforms like, StreamYard, like what we use each and every Monday, has certainly made it easier for the weekend guy or someone long in the tooth like me to become somewhat IT savvy without really having to know a lot. So you're right. The user friendliness of social media and the internet in itself, some folks have had to kind of reinvent themselves. Some folks like myself are just new to the game. And as I said, we both benefit in different ways. That's why, as I said, it's so awesome to have a guy like Jim who's been around and has seen this industry from basically the start to the finish of where we're at right now. be a part of our weekly broadcast. But
I agree. And there's a guy that has never shied away from pivoting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Jim has been through all aspects of the industry
Yeah.
and has always been a leader. When it came to Facebook, he was on it. He you name it, he's on it right away, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't wait. No one needs to push him into it. He doesn't get dragged into it, kicking and screaming. He's done a great job. Like he's holding the bar pretty high for everyone else to go.
And I think that's something really important that you bring up, setting the bar high. And there's a lot of ways that Jim does that, holding the bar high or setting the bar high. But when you say about a social media presence, it's not easy. For anyone to maintain a social media presence, it takes work, and it demands a certain relationship with your following, with your community, with your friends on social media. Obviously we know a lot of folks that sort of do what they have to get that interest, to get that following, and then they back away. It's almost as if it becomes too overwhelming and too tiring. And I certainly see that aspect. I can attest, like sometimes you might not be prepared to be as busy as you are, if that in fact is your goal, if that's what you're doing. I mean, listen, when Red came to me years ago about setting up CFN, had I known it was going to get to this, did I know I was going to be this busy? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you, it has been an incredible ride. And when you get to see some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, as I mentioned in the outset, all the working parts, and all of the guys like yourself, Lawrence, Jay, who's coming on later, Jim and Vaughn and everyone else, there are a lot of working parts and aspects to this community that keep us running and keep it interesting. But this is such a great topic, Lawrence. And as I said, we could talk about it forever. But yes, so
there's
social media and the internet, number one. But you have two others on that list.
Yeah, number two. So you go. What do you think the second one is? It doesn't matter what order.
I don't know exactly what would be the next one. Obviously, social media and the internet is big.
Yeah.
I almost want to say that it's cause effect. Disinterest in angling itself.
You're very, very hot. I'm going to give you a 90 out of the 100 on that one, my friend. They call it, the American Sport Fishing Association calls it aging out. So if you look at the North American population, we have this unique thing called boomers, right? Baby boomers. It didn't happen anywhere else in the world. It really happened here for some reason. People came here after the Second World War and they started families here. And then there's a lot of children born after the Second World War, and they're the boomers. And it's a huge chunk of the population. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but these people have, for the most part, headed into their 60s now, right? So, you look at this recent Recreational Boaters and Fishing Foundation survey, and they've been tracking this for years on behalf of the American Sports Fishing Association. They started something, I think, 3 years ago called 60 by 60. And they gave themselves 60 months to reach 60 million anglers in the United States.
Wow.
So what they found in 2020, this was the survey for 2020, for last year, COVID year, that there's good news and there's bad news. What do you want first?
Give me the good news, because we have bad news.
Yeah, this good news. The good news is 5 million new U.S. anglers started fishing in 2020, 5 million. And they are mainly young people, women, and visible minorities, all of whom live in urban areas. Right?
Beautiful.
5 million.
Great news. Fantastic news.
Oh, yeah. Like 5 million. It was a 10% increase in the number of people fishing in the United States. So, if we say this is between 60 and up, or 6 years old and up, right? So you can't just track by licenses, because licenses can vary, from 18 to 65-year-olds. People under 18 don't need a license. People over 65 don't need a license. So it's difficult. So if a 10% bump, that's not bad. And we have something similar to that in Canada as well. Now, here's the bad news. The bad news is, in the United States, I wish I had statistics for this in Canada, but we don't do a very good job here, is that 8.8 million anglers left fishing in 2020. And they are primarily people over 55.
Well, that is unfortunately I don't. Yeah, that is a sobering thought and sobering stat. You know what that means, and I know we can't take direct blame for it, but that's us not doing a good enough job to, instill the passion and pass it on to other generations. But at 55, perhaps you take on a whole different vision on what you see as your retirement, what you see as your future goals. Maybe fishing doesn't play into it if you're traveling all over the world or taking on a new career or what have you. But that is a scary amount.
And then you look at, I do a lot of accessibility consulting. I've been doing that for a long time, around awareness and accessibility and accommodation. And we know that people between the ages of 65 and 75, 40% will have a significant knee problem or back problem that restricts their mobility and causes maybe a lot of pain, ongoing pain. And if you're thinking about climbing into climbing over your boat trailer on the wheel well and then slinking aboard your boat or sitting in an aluminum boat with just a bench seat and a crooked floor, right? You're thinking, wow, do I want to do that with my bad knee and my sore back? And you start to think no. And then people over 75 to 85, they take on a lot of hearing loss and sight loss. And so we need to be more aware that this is going on. And I've been working with the fishing industry, and they're not buying aluminum boats with bench seats and just floors, regular, no floored aluminum boats. They're getting boats now that have pedestal seats, boats that have electric start outboards, and boats that have flat bottoms, like not flat bottoms, but a wooden floor inside the aluminum boat, right? So it could still be a 14, 16-foot boat, but it's got a nice flat floor so you can stand on it, easy on the back. It's got a nice seat that you can sit on, supports your back, and you don't have to twist. And it's got an electric start outboard that you don't have to rip with your ripcord. Just those simple things have meant that people are coming back, right? You don't do those things, they're not coming back. So the little adjustments that the industry has to learn about, and they haven't been pivoting because, fishing, hunting, it's like, there's still a lot of machismo in all of this, right? The outdoorsman, right? We still hear that, the sportsman, right? Yeah. Those are words that are still being used with this whole idea of it's a testosterone-driven sport made for tough, rough, ready to sock them kind of guys. We can't think like that anymore. We're just pushing people out of the sport at that rate because of that attitude. We need to be more accommodating and more willing to adjust to meet these new designs. Like I'm sponsored by Ranger Boats, and sometimes they ask us for surveys. And I said, look, okay, your wheel wells, your step ups around the trailer, you need to have bigger areas to put your feet. You need to have smaller steps when you're stepping from the cockpit up onto the front deck. When you have a 14-inch step there and no hand grip, nothing to hang on to except the windshield, and then you wonder why your windshield's starting to fall off a year later. Like put bigger hand grips in. You think about an accessible washroom, right? There's grab bars everywhere. Yeah. Good steps, good grips, nothing they're going to slide off on. Look how popular those staircases on the front of boat trailers are now, right? Very popular. So they need to figure out ways that boat launching, a lot of people exit, older guys exit because they just don't like the it's hard to load and unload a boat. It's hard on the back, it's hard on the body, and get home and then unpack your boat and climb in and out of your boat. So there's a bunch of things we need to do better. And then that, like I said, the good news there is, women, young people, visible minorities coming on into the sport. We need to help make sure they stick around. Mentor them.
Well, and this is exactly what I'm saying. Just as Sparkus has mentioned, and yes, Sparkus, I do remember Sports Unlimited, and I do remember when they used to sell fishing gear. That was one of the reasons I used to go there was to see their new fishing line. But yeah, selling fishing to people is all of our jobs, 100%. And you know what? I unfortunately take it to heart. Shouldn't take it personally, but I do when I hear numbers like that being thrown around that folks are getting out of fishing, out of hunting. A comment that was made, and it does make sense, but is it possible that the anti-hunting and the anti-fishing voice is getting louder and perhaps winning? Could we?
Now you're tipping into our third reason, right? Conservation, climate change, you know, all the news about resources being threatened, whether it's from climate change or whether it's from pollution and plastic and chemicals and blue-green algae and over-harvesting and, you know, maybe a lack of respect of the resource. That's the third thing, right? People are questioning, can I still do this and hold my head up high, or are my kids going to tear my head off? And, you know, look at these millennials and these Gen Zs, right? And these are the grandchildren and children of the boomers. And they've grown up in a world where they're looking at all this information streaming over their digital equipment all the time, seeing all these reports, all these this scary information from people like Greta Thunberg and others, many, many others, that we need to start to do things a little bit more carefully, and we need to be a little bit more respectful, and we need to know when enough is enough, and we need to start taking action in new ways. Now, anglers have been taking action around conservation for 150 years, and it's been working pretty well up until recently. Now we've got some new, you know, scary challenges we got to deal with, right? So the tools and the methods we've been using for the last 150 years worked, but they're not working so much anymore as well because we've got these other threats, right? Climate change is a real threat. There's very few people denying that. Most of the public buy into this. So if you're going to fish and if you're going to attract people to fish, these are people that want to know they're doing it the right way. They want to be able to be proud. Hunting went through this in the 1980s. Hunting was almost wiped out because of PETA and other groups, because it was just hunting for fun, killing for sport. And then they realized, the hunting industry realized, if we keep doing this, we're done. So they brought in the ethics of hunting. If you're not going to eat it, don't shoot it, right? You go out to hunt and you eat what you hunt. You eat what you kill. And there's very few exceptions for that. Maybe coyote is one. And look how much trouble coyote hunting gets into still, right?
Yeah.
So we need to say, okay, we're going to go fish and we're going to eat what we catch, and we're going to eat the right ones. And we're going to say, look, we let these ones go, and we're keeping these ones. Now I'm just wrestling through here these Zone 11 and proposed amendments for Lake Nipissing, and they've got a slot size for harvesting walleye. They're proposing of between 40 and 44 centimeters to keep, and then smaller and bigger you have to let them go. But then for pike, they go the other way. You know, you can keep the ones between. They want to say you can keep the ones between 50 and 90 or something like that, but you got to let the little ones. No, you can keep the small ones and the big ones, but there's a group in the middle you have to let go. It's, you know, I'm confused. Why would you have two different ways to exercise a slot limit on the same lake? You know, stick to one thing that works. You create a harvest slot size. Okay, you can keep fish in this slot size. The little ones go because we need them to grow up, and the big ones go back because we need them to spawn. And you keep the nice eater sizes, right? You know, just makes sense. Just don't flounder around and give contrary information. Get your messaging right and stick to it. We need to start to do things. We need to show that we're taking the right action, that we care. You know, I think about all the volunteer hours anglers put into cleanups and shoreline restoration and spawning ground rehabilitation. We do thousands and thousands of hours. Look at those 2 muskie weekends, right? The Muskie Canada, Odyssey, and the Muskie Symposium 2 weeks later. Yeah. I think in total, it was what, $40,000 and $27,000. So $67,000 raised for research on those. Yes, just here in Eastern Ontario. Eastern Canada.
It's pretty incredible, and you're right. I mean, some of the rules can make it intimidating for anglers because you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to be that guy to show up on the news or gal and get it wrong. But James, you're 100% right. Get involved in local clubs, and I know it's a commitment. It's a sacrifice. Everything that means something usually is. It's not done without some sort of sacrifice. And if time is the worst of it, you know what, you're not doing so bad. But, there's some great work being done along the North Shore in our tributaries in Lake Ontario, but in all of our tributaries all across Canada, there's work being done. Victoria is doing some work with the Yellow Fish campaign out in Alberta. We have some great CFNers doing some great things. And we can't quit on this. We can't quit on this because at the end of the day, it's our job to fail if we do not pass on the passion and the knowledge of why this passion is important for keeping our historic rights intact.
And that passion and how we express that passion, we need to evolve that a little bit too, right? And how we express that.
Yes.
So things like, using military language, go out there and kill them, like, knock them dead. Just a lot of language about fishing as an act of war almost, right? Like 10 years ago, Scotty, you remember, pictures in magazines, there'd be dead fish on the deck of the boat, blood everywhere, and anglers covered in blood with big smiles on their faces, good day on the water, right? They don't allow that anymore. No one wants to see that, but
it's so interesting that you say that. And just, this is a little bit of behind the scenes info. Our legacy members, when it comes to posting edits, we are very cautious to post fish that are bleeding. Obviously, in a lot of cases, you'll understand which fish are being taken, but to me, that's trying to encourage selective harvest. So when you get a stringer of 13 to 15-inch walleye, that's a catch limit for one angler, it's understandable. Yes, it may seem barbaric to the PETAs of the world, but it's understandable to us anglers who understand that is selective harvest, and we are trying to do our best to encourage that because we don't want to tell everybody not to eat fish.
No,
it's not about that at all. It's about being smart on what you harvest. So when you see those big fish that, a lot of us would know, probably we'd like to see those returned. Does it have to be that bloody? We'll do our best as editors to make sure that we're not trying to push that or focus in on that so that we can keep some of the negativity away and at least pass on the right kind of message.
I talk to a lot of conservation groups in the work I do, a lot. And there's a bunch that won't give me the time of day officially because, I hook and line fish and they have sponsors or maybe members on their board or just they're scared, scared to be associated with anything that involves fishing. But privately and more increasingly publicly, these conservation groups are embracing sustainable fishing. They're embracing the idea of, hey, we're harvesting from a slot limit from a fish population that can sustain this. And actually that's what it's meant for. And I've been promoting this idea and taking scientists fishing and conservationists fishing and putting it on YouTube and saying, look, you eat this fish, you're eating nature. It's a statement saying this nature is clean, this nature is healthy. I'm eating the water, I'm eating the ground, I'm eating the air, I'm eating this wild fish. It's all good. There's nothing wrong with any of it. And if we to keep that up means we have to take responsibility for all of it, not just how many fish there are.
You're right. And there's some really hard and strong statements here. Mike Howard's making a statement here. When they question your harvest, get them to look at a slaughterhouse for the food you buy in a store. Now, a statement like that, as true as it may seem, Mike, it will bring a certain sense of confrontation. And you're as right as you are. That's not the message that we want to send. Basically, just as Lawrence just said, there's nothing wrong with keeping a selective harvest of fish. We want to enjoy it. As Lawrence, it's an investment in our environment. As we're saying, we're eating the water, we're eating the confines of where the fish lives. So it's a true testament to what we feel about our environment. And sometimes it may vary, but it is what it is. Now, Christina's asking, will a fish die if released bleeding? Not necessarily at all, Christina. In fact, some trout, as Jason will come on here, I'm sure, and will attest that trout, they are bleeders. They doesn't matter where you catch them in the mouth, they will bleed. And 9 times out of 10, when released correctly, they will survive. I don't know too many that would die. But yes, Mike, absolutely depends on how bad it's bleeding, where it's bleeding from. Key. If it's bleeding from the gill plate, that is definitely an at the moment decision on whether you release that fish or harvest that fish, because we don't like to release fish that are definitely going to die. But
Keep it and eat it.
Absolutely.
Just keep it and eat it. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not the worst thing you could do. Releasing a dead fish is probably the worst thing you could do.
But maybe to find a school of fish and to feel that you have to catch every single one of them.
Yeah.
Right. Every single one of them before you can move on. You're not fishing a tournament. Like, I understand when you're fishing a tournament, there's things you do to win the tournament, but that's not every day. And those are a few handful of days a year. The rest of the time, like tournament anglers, they go around, they drive around their boats. They don't even use hooks on their lures half the time, right? They're just looking for fish. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with catching a few fish here and a few fish there and keeping one or two to eat and then just going for a little putt around or canoe or paddle or whatever. And maybe, just check everything out. Just check everything out. It doesn't have to be about numbers all the time.
Amen. Listen, dude, you always come here with great topics, great conversation, and it gets us thinking. It certainly gets us thinking. But, what you have told all of us tonight, and it's no fault of any one person. We are a collective. We are a community, and we have a task in hand. If we have 8 million people that are getting out of fishing, I guess we're not doing a very good job. So we need to do better.
Yeah, we need to do better. We're aging out in Canada. They're aging out in the States. The same thing's happening in both countries. Yeah. So, that's tourism jobs. That's industry jobs. That's gyms, jigs. That's everything, right? Tackle shops, bait shops, all of it. Like, who's going to go north if we just a handful of rich people that can fly in with their corporate clients and write it all off as a business expense? Is that's what it's coming down to? Are they the only ones left that's going to be able going into the north and experiencing the beauty of our nature? I hope not. I one last statement I'll say, we a lot of us look at Indigenous and how they're sort of re-embracing their culture and exploring and identifying and getting connected with their culture after years of assimilation and other weird policies that didn't quite work out. And we can be critical, but I think what we can learn too is that we have culture too, right? We have culture that goes way back about catching fish, going into nature, gathering, foraging, flora and fauna, bringing it home, feeding the family. That's part of our culture too. And so we share that desire and that heritage, and we should embrace that. It's part of who we are. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's who we are. It's in our DNA.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And we'll be there forever. Because of exactly what we're doing here. Lawrence, thanks so much for being a part of it, for all you do and engaging in great conversation and getting us to think yet again for another Monday.
Thanks for having me, Scotty. Thanks, everyone.
You take care of yourself. Stay classy, stay healthy, and we'll see you next Monday, my friend.
Sounds good, man.
Peace. Before we bring on Jay, let's have a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made, every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
All right, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
Your turn to weigh in, my friend, because I could tell.
I don't know. There's been so much talked about tonight. I'm trying to digest it all, and I can't. I don't know. Last week was a long week, buddy. I'm just happy to see you. It's been
you know what? And I want to say this because a lot of people don't know, but Jay shares some awesome stuff with me, and it's nice to know that I have someone like me on this planet.
I'm stirring that walleye pot some days, buddy. I stumbled across a good article.
That photo and that article that you sent me today, as I said, I will do my best to try and share it on Walleye Wednesday, but I was just blown away that that's a hatchery here in Canada.
And so I'm pretty active on Twitter, and a lot of folks aren't talking about social media. There's an incredible scientific community active on Twitter. So many fishery scientists, biologists, technicians that are active on Twitter. And Twitter is not for everyone, but Twitter is a great way to get news. Like honestly, even during pandemic, I don't want to say it, but you know, it's a great way to get information quick and easy. And so I go on Twitter, like, and I check Twitter once a day, and I don't check every article, and there's so much on Twitter, it's hard to kind of digest it all. But that one article came by, it's a graduate project, and I'm like, walleye rearing Manitoba. I know someone who might like this. And so I actually reached out, and then I replied to that student's tweet, and I asked, hey man, why do you think the walleye, like the egg production was so good this year? Now, just because egg production was so good doesn't mean it was a like viable eggs or whatever, but it's a positive thing. And he said, yeah, man, this year the spawn was short and fast because of the way ice out happened, and that's what happened. And they've never had that many eggs in that hatchery. And I saw all the jars, and I'm like, oh, Scotty Martin's gonna love this picture. Gonna love it.
And as I said, I don't have the picture, and I apologize for that, but
we'll share it. You share it Walleye Wednesday. You got the link.
We'll share it for Walleye Wednesday. I guarantee you. And all I can say is it'll blow you away. And I'm going to give you a little bit of FYI so that when you do see it, you'll understand. There's anywhere between, I would say, 250 to 500,000 eggs, depending on how dense it is, the level of which the eggs are in the jar. But you're talking about 250,000 to 500,000 eggs. And in some cases, those represent only one female.
Yep.
So when you see all those jars, you'll understand, you'll get an idea that when you take those big fish out of a system, that's one jar off the rack. And it may not seem like a lot, but when you hear those numbers, you understand the need to have to put those fish back.
Well, and the quote in the article was, or the comment to me on Twitter was, usually they'll fill 1/3 of those jars in an average year. And this particular year, every jar is full. The hatchery is full. There's no more room for walleye at the inn. The inn is full. Like that's awesome.
It is. It truly is awesome. And hats off to that group. What is it? The White Shell Hatchery, I believe it was.
Yeah, White Shell Hatchery out of Lake Manitoba. So they're east of Lake Winnipeg. And you know, actually, and I shared that second article with you, but we'll share those links on, because I didn't realize, like, you know, what's dude, like I work on certain fish, but at the end of the day, I'm just a student of the industry. I just love learning about stuff. And I know very little about aquaculture, not in my blood. That's you. But I love learning about new stuff. And then to learn about hatcheries in Manitoba, that's probably the first article I ever read about it. And I'm like, cool. So, you know, and so if I'm gonna read about walleye in Manitoba and rearing and stocking of walleye, I'm like, I know the first guy I'm going to share this article with. So,
amen. And
yeah,
guys, if you are interested in it, you know, and there's lots of groups that are doing it all across Canada. I had no idea that walleye was being done to that extent anywhere in Canada. So, I mean, hats off to that group. But if you want to get a chance to look at it on a large scale, the Finger Lakes. You go down to the Oneida Hatchery. There's a few hatcheries down in that area on the Finger Lakes system. They are phenomenal. I've had the luxury of touring just about all of them. There's a whole bunch in Michigan to see as well. They're pretty much everywhere, and there's resources on them. And thank the Lord for all the work that they've done, because it has built a foundation of knowledge for guys like myself back in the 90s when we wanted to do what we were doing and get involved. Now, unfortunately, those opportunities don't really exist for, you know, the private groups and what have you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going on. As Charles just mentioned, there's one up in Elliott Lake. There's a whole bunch of them. And in fact, what's really cool is our First Nations are getting involved in walleye culture. And I know of two that are doing it as we speak right now. So very, very cool stuff. But as I said, stay tuned to Walleye Wednesday, and I will do my best to post that and do that picture justice, because it is phenomenal to see.
You know, and I think too, like in Ontario, you know, our hatchery system, even now, most of our hatcheries now are, I say most, but there's so many great private hatcheries. You know, we've mentioned on this show before the community hatchery program that's subsidized in Ontario for producing fish. And I think that it's important to understand, and anglers need to realize this. so much, and this was mentioned on tonight in some earlier posts about stewardship. This is classic fishery stewardship, these hatcheries. And without the hard work of these anglers, and not even all of them are anglers, they're just passionate about giving back to the resource. And, the concern I have with a lot of these groups is just what Lawrence talked about, aging out. If it's not for groups like I don't know, like the Blue Water Anglers, for example, out of Sarnia, I'm just going to name one. Lake Huron Fishing Club's another one. These groups are fading. Their memberships are dwindling. There's not enough people. And I'm 46 years old. If I walked into some of these meetings of these groups, I would be referred to as a kid. Okay. These guys and girls that are in these associations have been there for 30, 40 years. They need new blood. And I encourage all CFNers, get out and join a fishing club. And I'm not just talking about a club that goes fishing. They're giving back. We need to keep these clubs alive. Richard Elliott right there. So we need to keep these clubs alive because they're fading. And it's not because they don't have the facilities. Sometimes it's not even the money. It's the people. They need the bodies. I'm so glad Richard's here tonight. This is fantastic.
No kidding. Well,
He's the guy I'm thinking of.
He's like us, dude. Richard is totally.
I know. I miss
this kind of stuff.
He's one of those guys I love talking stewardship work with, and he's one of the best examples of it in Ontario in my books. And but yeah, so a good example recently is in Delhi here. There used to be a group. In fact, one of the first steelhead clubs in Ontario was the Delhi District Anglers Association. It was based out of Big Creek, and it actually blossomed. And some of the members that were founding members here, and I'm talking, this is, I think, probably when I was younger than Stephanie. And some of those members started up Ontario Steelheaders out of Brantford. And then that, then all that work that goes on at the Saugeen now and stuff. And so recently, actually, some gentlemen from Delhi approached me and they're like, do we want to rekindle the Big Creek Anglers, or Delhi District Anglers? And I did one of these. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to have another hat collection back here. But, I think it's important to give back to the resource, and that's the creek that we fish all the time. So if we can start doing some stewardship work, we have a fish ladder here in town that used to have a lot of government support managing the fish ladder, counting the fish as they go through. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, a lot of that doesn't happen anymore. The fish can go through, but the monitoring doesn't happen because there's been so many cutbacks. If it wasn't for clubs running fish ladders in Ontario and some places, we wouldn't understand what fish are moving through. So there's a real push right now. I'm going to help the club get started through OFAH as an affiliated club to get some insurance. We got to get the insurance out of the way first, right? But after that, I expect this club to grow. It may not become huge, but it'll be a small group of dedicated. And these are all guys I hang out with on Saturdays. I meet them at the park on a Saturday afternoon in November. When the steelhead aren't biting, I call it, we're going to church. We're having church in the park. We're all standing there with our float rods. We're having a coffee. Of course, Trevor's fishing while Dad's shooting the crap with the old guys in the forest. But these are the guys who want to start this club. So, I think it'd be great to restart our local club. So everybody who's on this call tonight, reach out to your local club, go to a meeting, figure out how you can get involved. I challenge you guys, and especially during COVID, we heard Yvonne talk tonight about clubs are fading because of COVID. They have expenses and the funding has dried up. Get out and join a club, help people out. If we don't have these clubs, we're going to lose a lot of fish. And I'm not talking Ontario, across Canada. We are going to lose fish. Never mind losing anglers. We are going to lose fish if we don't start helping out clubs more.
Amen. Curtis, you could not have said it any better. You're 100% right. And we are trying our best to become the resource in which clubs can get that platform through which they can promote themselves and at least promote some of their endeavors. And as I said, Blue Water Anglers is a great example. Metro East Anglers does some phenomenal work. Even the folks down at Port Credit, the James Shembry's associated, there are so many groups that are doing work. But unfortunately, as you said, you can fit them all in a telephone booth and you wouldn't want them to stand up for very long just because of their age. And I mean, no disrespect. It's just they're getting long in the tooth, and they need an influx of new blood and members that will be active, as James said, because that is another big problem of theirs.
It is. And, and I encourage everyone, share, if you're part of a club, share information to the CFN page or group.
Amen.
And then, once that information's there, this kind of gets what we've been doing recently with a lot of the tackle companies, which is fantastic as well. So we got the dealers, the companies. Well, let's start sharing some information about these stewardship groups so that if you want to find one local to you, like there is no directory, but I encourage people to start sharing that information. And there's lots up there that are coming up here right now. And so, and reach out to people, everyone on this call, reach out to Richard Elliott, because he knows where some of these clubs are, because he works with not just one or two clubs, and he's aware of other clubs out there.
He's doing it at such a grassroots level too, because he's bringing those incubator, back into the school classrooms and getting young, moldable minds to see what it's like for a fish that is hatching out of its egg and grow up into a fish that they get the luxury of releasing back into a watershed. My Lord, man. That is grassroots. It almost brings a tear to you. I love that.
And kids soak this up, man. I got to tell you, I was on a call. So I mentioned it last week. I was on a call with a grade 2 class last Tuesday. And, man, it was such an enjoyable call, man. So I was talking about my job. So they were out of Corunna, which is just south of Sarnia, right, out of the St. Clair River. So I tailored my talks. Of course, my work is primarily around species at risk. So I talked about the lake sturgeon program in the St. Clair River, and we just had that big sturgeon that was all around the web. That was caught out of the Detroit River near Belle Isle. So I talked about that. But, of course, the talk always comes back to fish and fishing, right? And so these kids, all I kept hearing was they were just jumping in like, I caught a big fish here. I caught a big fish there. And I let them tell the stories. And the teacher was so apologetic. And I'm like, don't apologize to me for a bunch of 7-year-olds telling fishing stories, because I will listen to that all day long.
Okay.
And I got to give a shout out to the one older brother, Max. I have to tell this story. Trevor's giggling his butt off. Trevor overheard. So picture this grade 2 student, wonderful kid. He's telling me about his brother, who's like big time fisherman. Like that's how he was introduced. So I see this kid, Max, like lean in, and he's probably about 9 or 10. And he's like, yeah, I'm big time. I got 2 tackle boxes, double-sided, full of tackle. Like he's talking smack to me on a Zoom call. And it was just awesome. Like, so I've been talking about this kid, Max. I've been making Max jokes all week. And this kid was like straight face, like, yeah, I catch them all the time. I catch fish. So everybody knows a kid named Max who's like super serious angler, right? Everyone knows a Max out there. And this Max, so I'm going to say his older brother, Max, was probably 9, maybe 10 years old. And he was totally telling me what an awesome fisherman he is and not hiding it. It was fantastic. Like, that's great.
Be like Max,
be like Max, right?
Yeah, be like Max. So, but let's face it, Jay, we know some adult friends of ours who probably are a lot like Max as well. But when you get older, it's not so cool.
No, it's not so cool. Well, and that goes back to social media, right? Like,
absolutely.
If you want to be, I hate the word pro staff, but you want to be an ambassador or an influencer and get people to do stuff, you got to walk a line. And sometimes that line gets crossed. Often it does. And especially in the last couple of years with what's been going on in the world, it's really hard to keep your emotions in check. It's really important that, as an influencer, you need to stay positive, like at all times. And it doesn't mean that you have a weak spine. If anything, positivity means you're a stronger human being. That's what I think. It's so easy to get ticked off and say what you want and throw some mud on people. Like, I've had a couple situations recently where I've had to check myself where I'm like, that's not worth getting mad about. And I was mad, but I had to, I'm like, it's not worth it. I got to look at the big picture. And, it comes back to what the nosebleeds on the high road some days are tough, but we got to take the high road. right?
You do, and that is unfortunately you learn that on the first day of social media 101.
Yeah.
That if you want to engage your audience in a negative way and be confrontational, unfortunately your days are numbered, because they attack the weak. It's no different than the plains of Africa, where they go after the hobbling wildebeest. Don't be that hobbling wildebeest. Be a lot stronger than that. But Jeremy, get back to your point. Great that you brought this up. I'm glad you noticed, because yes, we did do a segment on the Matagami Walleye Hatchery in regards to what they do for that pike tournament and the proceeds that go from that pike tournament towards the hatchery efforts. But yes, they are definitely one of our First Nations group that we know of that are running their own hatchery.
Awesome.
I do know there are several others that are getting involved. And really, at the end of the day, it's a win-win for them, because it of course, improves their fishery, which is hands down important for their community. But also, it brings a new light on First Nations that sometimes take it on the chin for some of their endeavors and some of what they do. Gives them a great opportunity to change that and improve that. Yeah. So, big shout out to the Matagami First Nations for what they do for our walleye up in the Timmins area. But some great comments.
But I want to get back to fishing for a second. I want to give a shout out, and I've been doing this I think every week now. I've been trying to think of someone to give a shout out to, and I want to give a shout out to Brad Bedford. Now, some of you out there might know Brad Bedford. Brad Bedford has a Facebook group called the Fishing Knowledge Pool, and I'm going to drop the link to that group in the comments here. And you know what? So we've talked about this before, Scotty, where it's tough to I want to hang out with so many people, but I don't have the time. And it's really cool to be around like-minded people. And so Brad and I have been communicating for off and on for a couple of years now, talking about fishing. Brad is an avid stream angler for trout, brown trout, brook trout, rainbows. And we share information, and we love sharing our knowledge with other people to learn to be better at angling. Because if you're catching more fish, I'm happy, right? So it was great. So last week, Trevor and I met up with Brad. We did a socially distanced trip. I followed Brad around. Brad showed me a few streams I've never fished before. I'm not going to give those streams away. I think everyone should do their homework on those streams, but I'll talk about some homework in a minute. But, it was great to sit at the stream side and just have some quality conversation with a fellow angler who is just very like-minded to the way I am. And, it maybe in the absence of trade shows and stuff, maybe I'm missing that a little bit. So it was great to hang out with Brad last week. And I want to give a shout out to Brad, because he helps in his Facebook group. You have questions about catching a stream trout, he will point you in the right direction. He's a very, very good guide. He's not a guide. You can't hire him. He just loves taking people out fishing. And he's just a good human being. So I just want to give a shout out to Brad and his Facebook group called the Fishing Knowledge Group. And if you get a chance, join it's a private group. But if you get a chance, join it. It's a great opportunity to hang out with some good, like-minded people.
Yeah, and Brad does a great job, promoting his area of fishing and the opportunities within his province and territory in regards to trout fishing, and does so on a regular basis. And we're honored to be able to share it to CFN, but pay witness to it, of course, on his Facebook, and let's maybe give a few likes, get his popularity up there, and cross promote, as I always say, is the best way to be. So for whatever reason, Jay, people want to talk about snacks.
Snacks.
Oh, Trevor, what's the best suggestion that you have?
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Come here, both of you. Come here. They're both. Jeez. All right, sliding over. Here come she's the snack queen.
Now I eat like nothing if we're catching fish, but if we aren't, it's cheese and crackers and sausage.
Yeah, pepperettes.
Yeah.
Now Stephanie got waders this week, so I got her a pair of Cabela's waders, and she loves waders, Scotty, because there's a snack pouch in the front. She said, Dad, this thing has a pouch in the front for all my snacks. So, Stephanie, give us your 3 top snacks for fishing.
Banana, crackers, and granola bar.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, she loves her snacks. She loves her snacks, and she loves bananas. So if you're coming fishing with us, bananas are coming along. Trust me.
That's awesome. Well, listen, you guys throw in the comments what your favorite. Mike's saying beef jerky. I like beef jerky. Smoked smelts are an excellent snack.
Oh yeah,
I'd enjoy that. That's absolutely, David. Good choice.
I'm all about the dried meat, man. If you like a nice dry pepperette or a pepperoni, like I'll just stick it in the pocket, and it's good for the day. You don't have to keep it cold or nothing. Like I love some good dry meat when I'm out fishing.
Now, I've had a bad experience with pepperettes, and if my good buddy Jeff Kennedy was watching right now, he'd be laughing hysterically. But there's an island in the French River that happens to have a pair of my shorts. Somewhere.
You gotta stay away from the. I don't mind spicy pepperettes, but if I'm fishing all day, I'm going mild. Because
yes, absolutely,
I'm gonna go mild every time. If I'm hanging out at the cottage, I'll mix it up, some spicy salami or whatever. But if I'm going fishing for the day, it's mild every time.
Yes, absolutely. Pepperettes are dangerous. Now I noticed you put up a link for Topographical Maps Canada.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people asking me, how the hell do I find all my fishing spots? And there's some great online tools, like the Fish Online app that's Ontario-based. But this is an app that's in the Apple Store, and you can actually download topographic maps. Scotty, these are the old school NTS topo maps that we used to have. Oh, yeah. So the biggest challenge that we'll find is, where does that creek flow to? Google Maps is handy, like, because you can do satellite photos, right? And you can kind of see. But sometimes if you're looking for a trout stream, and I guess not even a trout stream, I want to look for places to fish. But when those places get small, because the canopy cover with the trees, where does that thing go? Where does that creek flow to and from? And so I've been using this app, and I use it for work too, but I use it probably more for my own personal self. So when I'm pulled over at the side of the road, I'll just pop open the phone and I'll open up that app, and it's GPS enabled, so I can see where I am on the screen. And then I can see the name of that creek and where it flows. And so, I was comparing some notes with some colleagues, and everyone really just wants to see, they want to figure out where they're going and what they're doing. And again, Google Maps is great, but you don't get that detail. But when you look at these screenshots and you can download sections of these maps. Like, remember the old NTS maps had like a grid over all of Canada?
Yeah.
So if you don't want to use up too much of your data, you open up the app. I'll open it right now, see if this actually works. So, all right. So this is, that's Southern Ontario. Okay.
Yep.
See all the gray spots are all the maps I've downloaded. So I'll just zoom in. Like, I'm going to zoom in on, we'll just zoom right in on good old Delhi. And just to give you guys a picture, come on, maybe. There you go.
Smokes.
Just like the old topo maps, buddy.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can put flags. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll sit there and I'll put a flag on here, and it's GPS enabled. So you put the location button, it'll put it there. And I'll put little flags, but then I'll copy and paste information between Google Maps, and because I want to put a waypoint in Google Maps to drive to the creek that I found. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
that is so cool. Holy crap. And here I thought that the only way you could look at these maps is to go back through the archives or go up to a forgotten cabin somewhere in the north that has millions of these things laying in the corner. Wow, that is so cool. We used to use those all the time for canoe trips. That was the portages.
Well, and that's the thing too. So the other one I wanted to mention was Backroad Maps books, which I have a lot of those too. They used to make some great fishing books, right, with the lake, like the bathymetric lines of the lake that have boat ramps. But all that stuff is digital now. So you can get Backroad Maps apps for your phone. But you know what? What's better for those is if you're actually going to get a GPS, like a little Garmin handheld GPS, you can do a digital download from their site and just use a USB connection, or you can buy the cards from like Radio World or right from Garmin. And
Right.
it's the same. Their topo maps from Garmin are very, very similar detail to the NTS maps I just showed you. But if you're not wilderness camping, and you have cell coverage, I think that Topo app and I don't know the Google Play version of it. I tried to look it up today because I'm not an Android guy, I'm an Apple guy. But there are lots of free Topo map apps out there. Now, some of the pay ones are good, and it's not that much money. Like, I think you can buy a Backroads subscription for the year for $50 for your phone, and you can go through and you can save waypoints and you can manage things. So that's how I find streams all the time. And it doesn't mean every culvert I go to, I catch fish. It's like eliminating spots. And so during this lockdown, and even last year, that's how I found half my trout fishing spots around Southern Ontario, was tinkering with that app, Google Maps, and just trying to figure things out.
No, Jay, what would a gent have to pay to get that resource of yours with all the flags in it?
If someone ever hacks my Google account and goes into my Google Maps, you're going to be a very happy person, because I label. In Google you can do your labels. So I'll label, like I'll click, Cranberry Creek, concession 12, and I'll go up to the next road, Cranberry Creek, concession 13, and I'll label every spot. It doesn't mean I've caught fish there though, so that's where the difference. I will label every crossing on a creek I want to search, and then I'll drive every one. I'm pretty good at remembering where I catch fish, but I want to get to those crossings. And remember, when it comes to culverts and road crossings in Southern Ontario, you can fish in the road allowance. You don't have to go on their property. So a lot of times you can fish from the culvert and fish, the pool below or whatever. So in some places there are no trespassing signs, but just fish from the road. And for a lot of people who have mobility issues, or, Stephanie's not big on dragging her butt through the thorns. And I have some places down here that my friends do not want to go trout fishing. And I will go there with Trevor because it's the jungle. But sometimes just fishing from a culvert. So a lot of the fish we caught on Sunday, so I won. Everyone got a brook trout on Sunday. So I did my job.
Nice. And
3 of those 4 fish came from a culvert. Even though you saw us hiking in the woods, that was our first spot. We went culvert hopping afterwards, and 3 of those 4 fish came from a culvert. Just a weightless dew worm. Like take half a night crawler. So you go to Dave's Variety in Delhi, buy yourself the cheapest worms in Norfolk County. Shout out to Dave Ward. And $3 for a dozen worms. Take half a crawler, a number 8 hook, no weight. Just let it go in the culvert. Let the current just drift it through, and wait, and they'll grab it. And you're going to catch. Now these are brook trout. They're not that big. We're talking 6 to. We didn't catch anything over 9 inches probably, but who cares? What a great way to go fishing with the family on Mother's Day in a lockdown.
I'll tell you, and some beautiful things come in small packages, and some of the trout that I'm seeing folks holding in their hand that are easily cut just because of their size. Those are beautiful fish.
Beautiful. They're just beautiful fish. Yeah.
Gorgeous fish. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you hold with 2 hands to be awesome to see. We promote them big or small. We love them all, as we always say at CFN. And some of those smaller fish are just beautiful to see. So that is awesome.
And one thing about brook trout too, that in the small stream, even the small stream brown trout around here, like I don't eat them. I love eating fish, but those creeks are so, like Scotty, they're as wide as the desk I'm at right here.
Yeah.
I think you could really do some damage to those brook trout if everyone's culvert fishing. So it's a personal choice. We talk about selective harvest. I choose not to select those ones. I will eat other fish.
And it makes sense because, again, as beautiful as they are, how much meat would you get off a fish that's like 12 inches, 13 inches?
Like not much, you know, and I don't know, man. I'm still nursing some fish in the freezer from ice fishing. I'm not lying to you. I'm hanging on to it because I'm like a little bit out of time until the boat ramps reopen, right? So, and I'm not a big trout and salmon eater. I like walleye and my panfish, you know, the odd smallmouth on a camping trip, but like I don't like we did eat a steelhead drop back on opening weekend. We cooked it on the barbecue with like onions and sausage, and like dude, my buddy Geza can cook a steelhead like crazy Hungarian, and he's a chef by trade. So it was full of onions, potatoes, and he put bacon and sausage on a steelhead, wrapped it in tin foil, and threw it on his fire for me. I'm not going to tell you how good it was.
When you saw the outdoor flavors ad, let the salivating begin. Holy!
Like I love a good breaded deep fried fish, but that steelhead on that, it just literally, I caught that fish and it was on the fire in 45 minutes from being caught.
Oh yeah, I dare say he's done that before.
Well, so we're very fortunate to have friends that have great property close to town. He rolled up on his side-by-side as I'm landing this fish, and I gave it to him. He ran this fish up to the barn, gutted it, wrapped it, sectioned it up in tin foil, and within 45 minutes, we had lunch.
That's not lunch. That's Thanksgiving dinner. Holy crap.
He called it the drive-through. He rolled up to the drive-through, and Jay had a steelhead on the line.
Mark Beeler has a question here in regards to your worm fishing. Have you ever tried putting air in night crawlers just to help keep them off the bottom in the strike zone?
I've played around with it. Now, when you're using half a worm, the air leaks out too much. So it's a trade-off. I find if you use a whole night crawler for the little brook trout, it's too much for them. They'll just nip away at it like a bluegill. Like I find, you know, this is getting back to basic fishing, man. This is stick and line kind of stuff, right? But for the bigger browns, I have a little worm. Berkeley makes a little worm blower. I keep it in my vest, and some of the deeper pools that I don't like to use any weight if I can avoid it. I want that in a big night crawler is pretty heavy, so I'll put a little bit of air in the one end, and I want that thing to drift in that pool out of sight and just be like basically weightless. Like it's almost, dude, I'll rig a night crawler like you'd rig a wacky rigged stick bait for a bass under a dock, and I will just let that thing drift. Now in some of the woody creeks we fish, that's either going to be a fish or a snag sometimes, right? Like you got to take that chance. But the worm blower is a great tool for some places. Absolutely, you should have one if you're going trout fishing. Have it in your vest. I think it's a good. Not just trout fishing, you know, any kind of fishing. You want to get some rise out of your bait, that little worm blower is a good. It takes some trick, though. I'm sure Mark knows what I'm talking about. You can't squeeze too much air in that worm. It'll pop. You got to kind of do it. I do it in like little segments. Like I'll kind of put the needle in and I'll squeeze and I'll just kind of add some air along the worm as opposed to just shooting in once and squeezing it. If you squeeze it too hard, the worm will pop. Yeah. I've done it lots of times. Yeah. So
you end up wearing most of it.
You end up wearing the worm. Yeah,
that's it. John, I'm assuming you're asking if you Texas rig an earthworm for trout. Is that a presentation that you would typically use, Jay?
No, all right, you got to go into the. So I'm just using. No, I got it right here.
All right.
So what size are these? That's a size 10, but these are just little. If I can get it, little size 10, size 8 or 10 hooks. The tip I'll give everyone: learn to tie a snell knot.
Yes,
a snell knot is so much stronger than a Palomar when it comes to live bait fishing, and I find that I get a lot more leverage on a bigger fish because if you drop that little worm into a creek, and all of a sudden we're running. So I'm running. I got my 4-pound trilene back here, and I use pretty much 4-pound test for most small stream fishing. I'll use 8 for some of the brown trout streams because I need a little more meat on the line. But basically, I'm not Texas rigging. I'm wacky rigging that piece of worm, and I'm just hooking it once. I'm not sewing that worm on that hook. If I find that just hooking it once, it just looks better. That's just for me.
More natural.
Now, Steve, I think, is it Curtis that's asking, or someone was asking in regards to where you put Sean, maybe Sean Forte, in regards to blowing air into your worm. Do you start at only one end and then just work it in with your finger, or how do you typically do it, Jay?
So basically, with a night crawler, I like to put it in the thicker end because I find that the skin is thicker at that end and it holds the air better. Because they can only hold so much air, and they'll still sink. I think it just gives the worm a little more action on the bottom. Like, you can't inflate a worm enough. Maybe someone can do it better than me, but it's not like it's going to float up off the bottom. What it's happening is when that worm is rolling along the bottom of the stream, it will be a little more lively, a little more buoyant so instead of maybe sliding along the bottom, it'll be kind of rolling and tumbling along the bottom more. But some of these like little culverts we're fishing, when it's deep inside, like, don't be afraid to use a little float. Yeah. Like keep a couple floats in your vest. Like it's basically a scaled down version of steelheading, right? So I'm still float fishing, but I'm keeping it simple. On a little 1 gram or 2 gram float, I don't need any split shot. That worm's plenty heavy. It'll just keep it down. And I just basically, that float is just keeping it up off the bottom. But remember, I'm going inside a culvert sometimes. I don't see the float. I'm just waiting for that. I'm watching my line at the culvert. So I'm watching my line. And so with mono, you know this, Scotty. Like, I like to use braid for spinners, to be honest, but for bait, I use mono. And you get a couple little kinks in your line. Like, it's not perfect. Mono goes kinky fast when you're fishing in current. I'll watch the kinks, and all of a sudden, the kinks will start to straighten out.
Straightens out, yeah.
Right? Or it'll move. So your current, it's drifting down the middle of the culvert, and all of a sudden your line all of a sudden move off to one side. So slowly reel up and just feel that fish. And you got to kind of let them have it. The other tip for culvert fishing is bring some water. And not just for you, for the fish. Keep your hands wet. I think I said this before, but you got to keep your hands wet when you're handling those little brook trout. If you're going to release them, if you're not going to release them, that's okay. But it's nice to have wet hands. And you'll see pictures we had this week of the net that my buddy made for us, Jason Ford. That net, I don't always land the fish in that net. Like, it's a brook trout. I'm flipping it out of the creek, right? But I will, if I want to get a picture of that fish, I unhook it. It goes in the net. We put the net in the water. That fish has a chance to take some oxygen. And then when we get the camera ready, I'm like, okay, kids, ready? The kids hold up the fish with the net. I got the camera. Okay, put it back in the water. Look at the picture. We're good. Let it go. So that's, when you're high up off the water, you can't just scoop the water. So everyone brings a water bottle. Just get your hands good and wet so you don't hurt those fish too much.
That's awesome. Great advice, as always, Jay. Listen, dude, we can't thank you enough for all you do, bringing all kinds of great info to us, making us think, giving us discussion, and reason to come here every Monday. What have you got upcoming?
You know what? We're just going to keep going trout fishing, Scotty. It looks like boat ramps are going to open anytime soon. And to be honest, I'm fine with it. We're not, like you said before, we're not driving the bus, man. We're not driving the bus. Yeah. So I'm going to totally use this time to keep trout fishing. And I'm spoiled here in Norfolk County, got lots of cold water streams. But I'm going to tell you, I've caught trout now in the headwaters of the Grand and the headwaters of, and I'm not talking the Grand headwaters like Fergus. Every creek in southern Ontario, not every creek, but majority of them have brook trout in them. But you need to go find them. So I've caught them in the headwaters of the Grand, the Thames, and some of our local creeks here along Lake Erie. So we're going to keep exploring, man. We got some more spots to go. And I don't know when things are going to change, but until then, this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to cover some serious ground. So.
Absolutely. Oh, John's asking, is Jason on YouTube? Yes.
Oh, John, I should be.
Yes.
I should be on YouTube.
Yes.
I want to be. It's such a time investment to be on YouTube, to do it right, it right.
You know what? And a lot of people will say that when they see a lot of folks, you know, oh, here he goes again. Here's another video. You know, at the end of the day, when you're putting content together, it is an awful lot of work. And for folks to take an appreciative look at what you're doing and the efforts that you're putting forth, it's awesome. So, you know, good on you, John, for asking that question. But I've been pushing Jay to do it. He's got some great stuff.
It'll come up. We talk about it quite a bit. You know, I've been watching. I'm a student of the sport. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. I probably watch more YouTube videos than anything on television anymore. And no offense, but I find YouTube, I can find the content that I want. And honestly, a small tripod, one of those flexi tripods, and an iPhone, that's how half the people are making their YouTube videos, and they're doing a great job of it. Like, I'm not knocking them. They're filming most YouTube videos. The best ones are like 5 to 8 minutes of content. Amen. That's it. Give some tips, show a couple of fish, and you're good. So I need to start doing more of that. And by practicing editing, I'll get quicker at it. So I need to do more of it. So maybe I've actually freed up some time this summer to do that, believe it or not. So maybe I'll do that for you, Scotty, and for CFN.
In the meantime, John, if you're looking for content with Jay involved, there are some over at Scotty's Outdoors. My YouTube channel, that he's done some great stuff for Steelhead Sundays and various other things, including catfish as well, that you just did recently. So yes, John, there's awesome stuff that Jay has already done. Maybe just doesn't even know that it's available. And now
maybe not.
Now he knows. Right on, Jay. Trevor, you guys have yourselves a great night, and keep up the great work providing us great content as you do on a regular basis. Can't thank you enough.
Be well, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Right on. Take care, Jay. Take care, Trevor. Guys, in the meantime, we do have the giveaway. This is the Ugly Boys baits that we got you guys to tag your favorite tackle store that you would love to see these baits in. It looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of us, including myself, is on this wheel. So I need a number between 1 and 3. And that is how many times we are going to shuffle the deck. 1 and 3 for this tackle pack that includes some spinner baits. It includes some floats. And big shout out to Bruce Downs for providing us some hair jigs, some more spinners. 4 is the number. Thanks, Terry. 1 and 3. Jeanette got it 3. We're going to spin it 3 times. We've got the Ned heads. We've got jig heads. We've got all kinds of stuff and some things, especially if with bass season just around the corner, some drop shot weights. Mark Elbex speaks very highly of Big Ugly Downs's drop shot weights, and so does this guy. So we're going to shuffle the deck 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And here we go. Last angler standing wins the prize pack. Here is our first spin. Hopefully everybody can see this and hear me. This would suggest that... Oh, look at that. Oh, Curtis is out. Jeez, I thought that was going to be Bill. I'll say we'll remove that name. We'll keep spinning. 9 more to go to find out who is our winner. The suspense is starting to build. Steve Shaw, it looks as if you were up, but thanks for all your tagging and all you do, Steve. You may be removed from this list, but you are number 1 in our hearts for all the work you did. And big shout out to Kylie, who made the Dean's list. That's not easy to do, so big shout out to Kylie for doing that. Again, I believe it's in university that she did it, so good on you, Kylie. That's not easy to do. David, I'm not even going to say your last name because I butchered it enough tonight, but David, thanks so much for bringing Sean Toms to us. We're going to be talking to him on Thursday in regards to a salmon charter that is going to be made available to a CFNer and someone under the age of 18. Christina, I'm so sorry to you. We will keep spinning until we get down to the last name. I can't believe that I'm still on this list. That's going to change real soon. Stephen Robertson. Sorry for you. Redneck Baits are doing wonders with our CFN family, and I know the entire family's getting ready for the CFN Fish Off. We can't wait. We can't wait to make the announcement, but unfortunately, we have to wait for those in power to give us the green light. Sean Forche, so sorry for you, my friend. Thanks for all you do, all the sharing you do. Sean, means a lot, my friend. You tag me a lot. You are one busy individual when it comes to CFN. We can't thank you enough for all you do. This is becoming the who's who. Who's going to get knocked off? Is it me? It is me. Look at that. Fantastic. Right on. I was going to give it away anyway, but I feel much better having the 3 here. What are the chances Tony wins this again? Huh? I got bets saying that Tony wins this again. What are the chances? Tony, Bill Mafteruck, and Richard Dunlop. Some heavyweights when it comes to our CFN family. Huge heavyweights. Tony, thanks for all you do, my friend. But it's not your night tonight. It's not often that happens. All right, so we've got 2 big names, Richard and Bill Mafteruck. The person this lands on is unfortunately the loser. Last one standing is our winner. Let's spin the wheel and find out who wins the tackle pack from Ugly Boys Baits. I know it doesn't matter even who's going to win this. I know who's going to get it. And it doesn't matter anyway. Richard Dunlop is our winner. Congratulations, Richard. I forget. Sorry, I got that wrong. Bill Mafteruck's our winner, but I can guarantee you I know exactly what's going to happen. And I know I'm speaking out of turn. Bill Mafteruck's our winner, and I bet you he's going to turn around and give it right to Richard because I just know how Bill is. Bill's just like that. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for sticking around as long as you have. It is a Monday, and we really appreciate the support. You guys absolutely rock it, and can't thank you enough for all you do in providing us content, sharing your posts, sharing your swag, all the stuff that's coming up. And, of course, we have something that's been talked about, and I can't wait to unveil it. It will be the Signature Series, the first inaugural Signature Series hoodie. That is quite classy, quite incredible, and I hope you guys are going to like it because a lot of work's gone into it. We will be launching that very soon, just hammering out the details, but we'll make sure that we get that available to you for at least the end of Walleye Opener. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have had it at the beginning, but certain things just can't happen, and we are busy. All the best, guys and gals. Enjoy your week. We'll see you tomorrow for Fraternity Tuesday. In the meantime, stay safe. We love you all. Take care. Be good. Peace.